But I think like in the zooming in, it's like that conversation about like Thursday being the new Friday. Like we were talking about that when I was in like, I remember my first boyfriend ever in 2007, us like having like a Thursday and like going out and like us telling people like Thursday's new Friday. And like that was like a big deal then because like this was years before what you were talking about, Anu, but like it was sort of like in conversation and like that carried over into LA. The same thing, as you said, with Wednesday, that happened as well. And even funny enough, like when I was earlier this year, even in Barcelona, like they even have a word for it of like Thursday the new Friday because like in Spanish, Thursday is jueves and Friday is viernes. They call it a jueves, which is like a Thursday Friday. So like, but like this is like a larger cultural phenomenon that like that the Thursday is no longer the new Friday. It just in fact is Friday, and like now with summer Fridays and things like that.
Hip Replacement, episode number 71. Kyle, it was a mere 60 episodes ago that our guest last joined us for episode number 11. We're back with Anu Lingala.
Welcome, Anu.
And we're all in Brooklyn.
Welcome back. We're all in Brooklyn.
Glad to be back. Yeah, we could be doing this in real life.
Yeah. Hey, well, one day we probably will.
And speaking of it, it's a convenient place for us to plug our upcoming live recording of Hip Replacement, September 17th at the Brooklyn Ace Hotel. So diehard listeners, casual fans, fair weather friends, come out, hang with us.
Come to town. It doesn't matter if you're not local. You can fly in. Come see us. It's a Thursday. Oh, dang. Well, next time.
You might not, you guys, you might have missed your chance to hang out with Anu, but otherwise, friends and previous guests of the show will be there. We would love you to join. More details on hipreplacement.substack.com in the coming weeks. In the meantime, how are things over there in your part of Brooklyn, Anu? Nice to see you again.
Thanks. Yeah, things are good. I love Bed-Stuy in the summer is a vibe. Block parties every weekend. It's fun. It's a good time out here.
I wondered. I spent the weekend driving to North Carolina and back to take series producer Campbell back to college, and I have a couple of observations about New York upon returning from somewhat quieter Elon, North Carolina. New York is at like a fever pitch at the moment, and which I think we generally think is good, meaning the vibe is great, people are up. But like last night, it felt feverish to me. Like it felt like people were having a little too much fun. I don't know. It was just like
last night. What was happening?
Yeah, the drivers were crazy last night. There were just tons of people on the street. I actually forbade and had to drive my daughter to a friend's house because she wanted to ride a city bike. And I was just like, I don't want you riding last night. It was just, I don't know. It was weird. It was just like
on a Sunday night. Wow.
Okay, on a Sunday night, people felt turned up. And that gets to some degree, a story that I wanted to talk about, which is the extent to which our social calendars or the macros around where and when we go out have changed and shifted permanently, right? Like there's this article that I shared from Marginal Revolution about a study that was done that says that we no longer spend as a society Fridays out with friends the way that we did as recently as 20 years ago. And I wonder, did Friday become Saturday, Saturday become Sunday, or you know what I mean? Like, did it shift in that way? Is Thursday the new Friday, and then we take Friday off, and then we go out on Saturday?
A lot of thoughts, but I also don't think that my experience is very universal. I feel like New York is a very different place, first of all, than
this is definitely
America.
True.
You know, like New York, you can go out any night of the week and find a crazy party, and
totally.
You go to an art gallery, you go to you can do anything you feel like or want to do any night of the week that exists. And that has kind of always been the case. So I think it's not a new thing here necessarily. And I don't know. I remember when I was like 22, Thursday nights was the night to go out because everyone was like, everywhere's too crowded Friday and Saturday. We're going to go out Thursday. It's more fun. It's
Yeah,
like
of course.
more cool stuff happens. And then I feel like by the time I was like, I didn't live here at that early 20s age, but I would visit friends. And by the time we were in like our mid late 20s, it was like, oh, Wednesday night's the night. Like all my
Okay.
friends
Interesting.
would go out Wednesday night. I had a very wise, she's still a friend. She just doesn't live here. But my very wise friend at one point said something that has always stuck with me where I was like, how are you going to work? Because I was visiting. I was like, how are you going to work today? Like, we're so hungover. Like, I'm so hungover. I don't understand how you're like walking outside at 7 a.m. and before the days of remote work. And she was like, I'd rather be hungover on someone else's time.
I
That's
love
it,
that.
right? Like you're getting paid to be
Very good
hungover.
point.
Right. And I was like,
Right.
you know what? That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Um,
there's an era of your life in which you can
right.
sort of get away with being that
Totally.
useless.
Exactly. Like you're not presenting at the meeting, you're just
Right.
sitting in it. So like it's
Total.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
25, it's fine. But I do wonder if like if remote work has changed things a little bit. Like
Mm,
a lot of people work from home on Mondays. So maybe Sunday is just as valid as a Thursday.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
I mean, I think it was zoom out and zoom in. I think that's absolutely true. But I think like in the zooming in, it's like that conversation about like Thursday being the new Friday. Like we were talking about that when I was in like, I remember my first boyfriend ever in 2007, us like having like a Thursday and like going out and like us telling people like Thursday's the new Friday. And like that was like a big deal then because like this was years before you were talking about it, new, but like it was sort of like in conversation and like that carried over into LA. The same thing as you said with Wednesday, that happened as well. And even funny enough, like when I was earlier this year, even in Barcelona, like they even have a word for it of like Thursday the new Friday because like in Spanish, Thursday is jueves and Friday is viernes. They call it a jueves, which is like a Thursday Friday. So like, but like this is like a larger cultural phenomenon that like that the Thursday is no longer the new Friday. It just in fact is Friday. And like now
yeah.
with summer Fridays and things like that, that is true. But then I think to the point of exactly what you said, Anu, about the remote working of it all, that also has shifted the macro, like when people go on vacation, when like when exactly is a holiday, like that sort of like thing has become so amorphous because it can happen whenever you want. And then also with something like climate change, now like the bumper seasons become more valuable than the full holiday time of winter
Right.
and summer. So like it's interesting that like our relationship to time, leisure when we do these things is like really in flux or like kind of being rewritten as we're experiencing it.
Yeah, and I do think like even today, like even nowadays, I tend to do more on the weekdays than the weekends almost. And for a few reasons, like
More, I mean, you do
Like
more
going out.
socializing.
social activities. And
Yeah.
part of it sometimes it's like when I was going into an office in the city, it's like, well, then I would plan things in Manhattan. Like I'd be like, oh, I want to check out this restaurant, I want to do
Right.
this event. Like I'm already in
I'm
Manhattan. I'm not
here
gonna
anyway. Right.
yeah, exactly. So that part of it's that. Part of it is that sometimes it's easier, again, like places are less crowded, so it's easier to get a reservation, it's
Right.
easier to get into the cool bar or whatever and not have to worry about waiting in line or like getting a table or any of this stuff. So it just like is easier and makes more sense. It's also like I'm not like staying out super late or getting really wasted or anything. I'm just having a few drinks with friends. So whether I do that on a Tuesday or on a Friday doesn't really make that much of a difference. It's not like
Right.
I can like everything's going to be fine the next day. So there's that. I want to use my weekends almost to like do run errands and do other things. Like there's like so many different parts of it.
Yeah, I mean, part of this is I was interested in it, thinking about the ways in which people calendarize, and New York obviously is an outlier, and you're right about that, Anu, but also, you know, the ways in which that kind of total availability of social opportunity trickles down to places that are not New York, that are outside. And Kyle, I think your ideas around, you know, the bumper season being more valuable than the high season is really interesting and will be a trend to watch for the next few years. But like I was at, so I was in Elon, North Carolina, dropping Campbell at college, and he runs on a very specific kind of social calendar, right? There is a Darty, a day party,
right,
every Saturday, right? There is a Nardy, which is a night party outdoors before 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. On a very specific schedule. There is a party on a very specific schedule. That's an indoor party after 12 a.m. So, and it's funny because there was a group of freshmen walking around outside, and they posted up outside of Campbell's house on Saturday night looking for the Nardy because they had been given the wrong information about where the house was. But it's like they know it's happening, so you just go and do it, right? That's what Friday night was like forever, and apparently is not the case. And so I'm just wondering where the replacement energy goes, or whether it in fact is like we take the weekend in two parts on Thursday and on Saturday now instead of go.
That's kind of how it was for me when I was working full time and like in my late 20s and stuff. It was kind of like, I don't know, Friday feels exhausting because like it's 5 days in the office and like you're kind of just like meh. So it was like, It was kind of like midweek, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and then it was Saturday.
Well, if you're Gen Z, you're apparently using Friday to go to the movies.
Right.
Because
sure.
This whole generation
love them movies. Well, another thing in here, like embedded in all of this, literally from the young people through, like, I think now it's everybody, is like a lot of this is economic too. Is that like a day party is cheaper than a night party? Going out during the week and like at earlier times, happy hour, quote unquote, is cheaper than on the weekends. Going on a holiday during fall or spring is cheaper than going in summer or winter. So it's like, these are all like, the shift is COVID, remote, economic, like it's all like, it's very interesting because like it's no longer just that the college kid is doing the day party, or like the brunch sort of graduated up to meet a sort of bad economic time, so that like, oh, like I will have my bottomless mimosa and then like cut it at like 6 and then go home, so very different.
Yeah, it is intriguing. You're right, Kyle, that economic vector. And I wonder,
because that is also beyond New York. Like that's everywhere now. Like I think that's also why like that experience is being experienced beyond here, is because like most places, especially outside of New York, people are like squeezed, and like, how can you still have a good time on little money? Like that reframes your life. It's fascinating.
So, okay, so that being the case, then why do we think Gen Z is opting to take the more expensive option and go see movies
Clout.
in theater?
Clout. It's not that expensive compared to other things. And like, if you're first to market on seeing the movie, or even seeing Thursday night late, you're first to talk about it. Sorry, I knew you were saying something.
No, I think that's part of it for sure. There's a couple things. Like I think that's part of it, and that ties into like this feeling like if you want to be the first, you can wait a month or whatever and see it on streaming or whatever, but like it's this one thing that you can like get access to and like be able to say you saw it. That's definitely part of it. But I also think part of it is just like something to do in real life, like, and be around other people. Like I do think that's part of it too. Like it feels like that nostalgia.
Well, is it a response to the millennial virtualization of everything? In other words, are young people going like, oh, the generation ahead of me loves Netflix and chilling. I don't never mind that. I'm going out.
Right. I don't know if it's like a response in that way, but I do think it's like because streaming has become so normalized, like the movies are novelty.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's something special and novel and unique about going to the movies. It feels like, I don't know, like going to a state fair or something. Like, I don't know, like it's just like there's the novelty of it. Like, I'm gonna go to like the whatever, like flea market, or like it's something to do that feels like unusual and novel almost, because it's not something that so many people older than them are doing as much.
One thing, so Campbell and I bookended his summer at the theater. When one of the first days he was back, we went and saw Backrooms, and the night before he left, we went and saw Tony,
Okay.
the Anthony Bourdain sort of fictional autofiction biopic. The as I was watching Backrooms, I thought this is going to inspire young people to make and tell stories, right? And I think we've seen that seems to be the consensus around it. Watching Tony, I was just, this is the story of Anthony Bourdain in Provincetown in the late 70s, going on was like this kind of specious adventure, like making a bunch of dumb mistakes, growing up and sort of coming of age, getting his rocks off a little bit, and just kind of, becoming a dude. And Campbell and I did not talk about it at great length, but I could imagine him or people like him watching, my daughter as well, watching and being like, I want to do that. I want to do real life stuff. I want to get out and have adventures and joyride in cars and shoot off fire extinguishers and, get punched in the face and punch people in the face and all that sort of stuff. And
experience life.
yeah. And the reason I bring it up is not because I'm counseling him or anybody else to do any of those things, but rather, not strictly speaking, but because I wonder whether little movies start to come back more now based on feeding a desire for IRL experience like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was really a little convoluted, but you get what I'm saying?
Kind of. I mean, I don't know about the movie specifically, but I think that, I think all those things that you mentioned that that Tony movie makes very appealing are things that have always been appealing to young people, but now you can almost watch it on your phone. Like you can live vicariously through watching experiences
Right.
like that versus actually having them, and maybe there's a realization or that doesn't kind of scratch the itch. You need to go experience it yourself.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. That makes me think maybe I'm just being misty-eyed about the pre-smartphone. Yeah, right. Being a youth pre-smartphone.
I mean, I think there's also the subject matter of that specific movie. I think that is maybe more yes, it's aligned with a smaller movie. You had to be there. It's only in certain cities, that sort of thing. But I think that specific movie and subject being in a kitchen, no one's on their computer doing work, they're actually making something. I think that is probably more appealing to a younger viewer. And I think that, plays into a lot of subjects we hear about how young people, Gen Z, are so anti-AI and are sort of anti-tech. And this sort of collapsing of the tech sector as being the it place, despite it still being quite lucrative, no matter if that bubble is going to pop, et cetera, et cetera. But that is that is directly connected to the people, millennials and Gen Z, who are well, I want to open up an ice cream parlor or a coffee shop, or I want to be a baker, this or that. And the rise in the liberal arts or writing, philosophy in undergrad is sort of connected, because it's well, I don't want to do numbers or AI for a job. Give me human again. And that I think is probably a big draw, is this guy, he got to go everywhere and cook food and eat food, which is a really basic human desire and really deified now. Him also too. So it's that I think probably is a huge part of that specific movie. I don't know if it's successful or not, but I can imagine that's really appealing.
That's interesting. The idea of new analog status jobs. One new analog status job, as represented by a prominent case in the media this week, has been union electrician, which is the job that is claimed by Gustavo Gordillo, who is the head of the Democratic Socialist
yes.
America chapter in New York, who has made news this week because he lives in a row house not far from you, Anu, in Bed-Stuy, that apparently his dad bought for him using a family LLC for $1 million. Well, he paid $935,000 for it 7 years ago. It's now worth $1.5 million, which, ask me, that's probably a little low, but I don't know, maybe it's not a great house.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at it.
How do we feel about our socialist leaders living in subsidized housing by their parents?
Well, Kyle said earlier, which was an interesting point, that at least he's putting his time towards positive use of improving society.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Maybe not having to worry about the rent allows him to spend all of his time and effort
absolutely
uplifting underprivileged communities. So sure, I guess all over.
I mean, there's a way we could also zoom. I mean, there are people who are like do the same thing with like Mamdani of like Nepo allegations, etc. But like, look, he's also doing really good things. So like, I would rather take that than like fucking Aubrey Hobart. Like that is something that it's a great thing. Like that, if the parents agree with that or not, I don't think matters. Like couch in the thing that you said earlier on news that like there was a viral clip on TikTok on a right wing like talk show, AM radio type of thing, where somebody called in and was like, I don't want to give my inheritance to my kids because I'm worried they're going to do socialist causes with it. And like, that is like, so it just says it all. It's like, come on, like you don't want your kids to do good things and like help communities, but here we are.
I think can I just, as a parent, I think, and I haven't seen the TikTok, so I can't speak to it. And there are plenty of dumb people out there who are just sort of reflexively anti-socialist
totally
for
they don't know what it
that
means.
Are dogmatic and not really well informed. But I also think there's an interesting thing, and again, it's like my experience in North Carolina this weekend. Like you, as a parent, you want your kids to not be naive with the use of the privileges that they have, whatever those are, right? Like Campbell moved into a house that he's gonna be the sole proprietor of because his roommates are off doing study abroad for the first semester. Like he's got to take care of the house, right? Or the house is going to turn to shit, which is, what has happened previously to it. Now, I don't want him to be like, I'm not worried he's going to use the house for ill-begotten activities, but I am worried that he's not going to maintain it the way that he wants to. I'm sure he'll chime in as the producer with the social notes here, but it's like so I wonder if the parents' response is more like, I don't want my kids using money for socialism because that's naive. They just don't understand what socialism actually is, That
is fair. I don't know how old Gustavo is, but I definitely know the person on that talk show or call-in show, chat show, whatever. They were talking about like millennial, like in their 40s kids. And like,
okay. So there are people that should be too old to be naive.
These are adults. Right. And like, that is, I think like,
they just disagree with their political views, so they don't want to leave them an inheritance, which is...
But I also think like a part of this too is like that sort of mindset, not what you said, Ben, but like in the call-in show mindset is like the still dark shadow over millennials and now Gen Z and increasingly Gen Alpha too, is that they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what to do with money. They are not adults. They're this, that. And like that sort of like thinking, hey, if I want to put on my tinfoil hat, like, is that perhaps why a lot of millennials have been boxed out from a lot of, the markers of adulthood and those sorts of things? I doubt it, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if like a small kernel of like, you guys are so vapid, you can't do anything, has like enabled both the helicopter parenting and the like barring of adulthood from generations. Cause it's just like, they've not allowed us to grow up by design.
It's like this like infantilization of like,
exactly,
you can't manage this, so like we're gonna take care of it for you, or
you don't know what you're doing. I'm gonna go with you to your job interview and you're in your
third year. I was gonna say like a few weeks ago, I didn't even read that article, but I saw that headline and I was like, absolutely not.
I was like, no.
Wait, which article are we talking about? Remind me.
There was an article, I mean, basically the headline was like parents are going with their Gen Z adult kids to job interviews.
Right, to job interviews.
Right.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
like
yeah.
calling up their
Yeah.
company or what, or emailing rather. They're probably not calling, but
Truly ridiculous. Well, but look, I mean, as evidenced by Tony and by another prominent case in colleges recently, there is a certain amount of supervision that is useful. Like in Tony, one of the things that happens, and given this is the late 1970s, maybe we weren't quite as up to date on what the potential downsides were, but Tony encounters his first use of cocaine at work, in the job, in the kitchen, and it's just sort of like, oh yeah, this is just like a pick-me-up. It's the way people today would drink a Celsius, right? Totally the same thing.
Same.
And they do, and there is a scene later where the person who introduces the cocaine then goes down the road of harder drugs, which is Tony does not very wisely get involved with at that point. But in any case, watching that, both of my kids said, "Oh yeah, Coke is back," and you have, and so my daughter's in high school, so for her to be conscious of it is a concern. But when you look at this thing that happened at Penn State with Pablo Plejkabar,
yes,
this cocaine ring that was. Yeah, so there's a big cocaine ring that was broken up at Penn State University in the last couple of weeks, where fraternity leaders were selling and trafficking cocaine. One of whom was making his fraternity pledges, like weigh and bag up cocaine as part of their initiation ritual.
Great story.
I mean, you want the parents to be around. You want a little bit of parental supervision might have saved Pablo. But the interesting thing is, and Campbell was relating this, was that one of the kids who got busted was selling Coke on Snapchat and was using his regular Snap handle, which is also a derivative of his name. It was like a direct derivative of his name. And so it's like, what kind of consequence-free environment do we think we live in here, guys? Like,
well, I mean, it's not consequence-free because, like,
clearly
one of his peers narked on him because, like, unless there was a cop on Snapchat, some like fucking narc friend.
I think the cops have got to be on Snap at this point.
Like that, like that's a bigger story. Like I'd be so pissed if my 20-year-old friend who I was sending snaps to because I liked him fucking narked on me about selling Coke instead of like, that's actually illegal. Like, you should not. Like that, like I would that
it probably just wasn't it. I didn't read this article. Was it just an angry pledge? He's like, I don't want to be doing this free work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually know how it unraveled. I just know that it did, and that it's been a big scandal. Big scandal. But also an opportunity for there's apparently merch that has, it's like the Scarface knockoff with Pablo Plejkabar.
I was gonna say, like, if anybody was doing this was like like a business student. Like, this was not theater student. This was a business student, and it will be merchandised, etc.
I think the fact that he was creating using the pledges to do this is the most interesting and unusual part of this whole thing, because
totally
Coke has been present on college campus. Like, it was there when I was there. Like, people,
sure, yeah, of course,
that's been happening. That's not new. This is interesting. This is entrepreneurial, really.
Well, it's also
he's gonna get a reality show after jail.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it just begs the question, though, like, at which point, real world experience meets youthful naivete, because to think like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this thing that is be deeply, deeply illegal, and I'm going to involve many other people whose incentives I do not know or control in it, and assume that it's going to go well. It seems wild.
He really hasn't watched The Wire. Let's get some education.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Actually, we should get the Wire as mandatory viewing for all.
Right. The Wire, Breaking Bad. Students. Let's have some educational viewing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, yeah. in any case, guys, I'm. Oh, the one other thing, and I just want to quickly say this to you is I went to Buc-ee's.
Oh,
Oh,
I was
Have
like,
either of you
where?
been to
Oh
how about
yeah.
Buc-ee's?
that in North
No.
Carolina?
There's one in Virginia,
Oh,
Hey.
which was on the route down, and
I've never actually been, but actually that same friend who had the very wise words about hangovers, she's from Texas and she had the giant Bucky's cup, like in college, like always, always. She would just refill it with Coke from the fountain.
the the guys, let me tell you something about Buc-ee's. It is, it's the size of a Walmart. I don't know if you knew that.
It's that big.
It's enormous, enormous, and it's 80% Buc-ee's branded stuff. The
Right.
Buc-ee's thing is it's just a literal cult of personality around Buc-ee's, around the beaver, around the brisket and the pulled pork and the barbecue lifestyle. There is every imaginable branded product with the Buc-ee's face on it that you could get. I mean, I was taking pictures yesterday of swim diapers and the highly exclusive Buc-ee's Hey Dude collab.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was really, really wild. I bought Harper a one of the Buc-ee's Beavers, like a Halloween edition Buc-ee's Beavers, and I brought it out to her in the car, and she's like, "This smells like barbecue." So down to the point where they've got pheromones, they've got barbecue pheromones on the stuffed animals. Like it's an incredible like cult of personality type situation. I would highly recommend it. But the other thing that was really interesting is I bought several of their Buc-ee's branded snacks. The beaver nuggets. I bought some beaver nuggets. I bought some salt and lime peanuts, and then unrelated, I also bought some Buffalo Ranch combos because I like combos.
Oh,
Buffalo blue cheese combos.
classic trust stop.
Exactly. The interesting thing was, and it coming out of the Buc-ee's, I could have no more than 3 or 4 bites of any of those foods before my body told me to stop.
Right.
The flavors are so extreme that my body told me to stop. And I thought that this is really interesting flavor design, sweetness profile design, something about it.
Your sensitive Yankee sensibility.
Yeah, maybe, right? Like I've got to just I've just got to push through. I've got to just keep eating the beaver nuggets, get through the headache that the sugar was giving me.
I think that's what anyone from Bucky's territory would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole Bucky's. I mean, look, I'm dying to go to Bucky's. One day I will go and I will have a similar experience. I'll probably end up vomiting, and that's okay. It's what's so interesting about like the Bucky's thing is like it fits into a larger, and this is like a macro trend of like the past since like probably 2015, maybe 2010, I don't know, like of like this of Southern culture being like slowly demystified and going national. Like it ties into like country music having a moment, like that whole bullshit, whatever, which is true, but also like I don't subscribe to it. But like that's also like why Chick-fil-A is like national now. When I grew up, Chick-fil-A was only in the South. Like I lived in Georgia for high school, and like that was still when it was like we would visit family in New York and Jersey, and they'd be like, "Oh, bring us some Chick-fil-A. We're dying for Chick-fil-A," and we're like, "Well, it's not going to keep in this car, but we'll try." But like now it's like it's in LA. There are multiple in LA now. There's like 1 or 2 here. Raising Cane's is another one that was like gone,
Yeah,
even bigger than Chick-fil-A, and like even a brand like Zaxby's, which is a very deep cut in the South, is opening a shop in New York and at some point very soon. And like I will go there because it was the best fried chicken I had when I lived in Georgia, and like things like that. Like Bucky's will in the next 2 years open a shop here because
how are they going to
it's
get
like,
the space?
well, yeah, well, I don't think it's gonna be a huge Walmart size space, but like it'll just be like a place for
it
has to be
it has
Walmart.
to be.
Well, hey,
Yeah.
But they'll find, I don't know, we'll find some.
they'll find something. They'll take over.
There are places along the turnpike in Jersey.
I wonder.
Right. Well, right.
how much of it do you think is just like these businesses have become really successful and like they're looking to grow and expand and so they're expanding versus I also wonder a little bit, is it partially, I mean, I don't know what demographic trends have been in terms of like, has there been a significant increase in the number of people from, you know, the South or more rural areas moving to bigger cities like
Mm.
Totally.
New York or
That's a
whatever?
great
Like
point.
that's has always been a thing, right? Like,
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
but
it
has it
is, it's,
increased? Because are these are the people um going to these restaurants and places in New York, are they mostly people from the Northeast or are they people who have relocated here for, that are like nostalgic for a sense of home?
yeah,
And
yeah. Is
tourists.
it,
I think it's both.
And tourists, yeah.
yeah, to what extent there's a sort of a great migration
Yeah.
type movement happening? I don't know if that's true. I mean, in fact, I would say it's probably, or I guess it's sort of it's the other side of the same coin, which is just general the you know, choosing Texasification of America in the last, you know, 10, 15 years, right? Where we are nostalgic for a kind of down home
Mm-hmm.
simplicity, or we are, you know, right wing coded, or we are increasingly countrified, or we are, you know, whatever the case is. But yeah, I guess that's probably the
And maybe.
socio political, socio psychological shift rather than like a
But it's like
demographic shift.
what's really interesting is like if we zoom out and like let's collectively brainstorm this is like so a swap happened because like in the early probably 2000s I remember when like Dunkin' Donuts came to the South. That was a huge deal. Like that was like my New York dad was like, oh, this is amazing, I can get my Dunkin' Donuts coffee. This is like in like 2003, and like now Dunkin' Donuts is everywhere. It eventually made it to LA in like the late 2010s, so like now it's everywhere. But like that was a big deal. I remember that being a big deal. And now the flip side of that is like the South creeping up and
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And like Krispy Kreme is another example of that too. Like that being so national and so like American, like that was a Southern thing that also broke out too. But like we don't see the inverse anymore outside of Shake Shack, and maybe there's something else. Like outside of Shake Shack, like there isn't a nationalification of
New York
the
places.
northeastern items because like where's the Wawa? Like there's not a Wawa thing happening. I would have expected that. And like even White Castle, like that has sort of like
This is really
went big and
funny.
went small. That's on the West
Wawa
Coast.
Wawa has expanded and
Okay.
is expanding. It's not in Kansas and it's not in California, but it is expanding. You know, and I think they're taking a slow and strategic type of approach.
Okay.
My favorite grocery store chain, Wegmans,
Yes.
similar. See, there we go. Shout out
Okay.
Wegmans. Shout out Danny and the family. But you know, so you
There's a
there
little,
is.
I think it's really funny to make it more local actually. Like, is it kind of the same thing as like you used to get like the Manhattan places opening in Brooklyn, but now all the Brooklyn places are opening in Manhattan. It's like
But
this
that,
reversal that's
yeah,
happening.
but that is like that plays into the
It's
South
kind of
coming
the
up here. Like
same.
that's like a
Yeah.
really interesting dynamic.
Well, part of it is interest. Part of it is also your and Kyle. It gets to new status jobs and the
Hmm.
attitudes around tech CEOs that in the article you shared too. So let's take Chick-fil-A for a second. Chick-fil-A, irrespective of how you think of its corporate politics, which I'm not favorable on, but nonetheless, its model is that every franchisee who owns the store gets paid, I believe, $330,000 a year from corporate to manage the store that they have equity in. They can own a maximum of two, but you then have people who own two Chick-fil-A organizations get paid in excess of $600,000 a year and are heavily incented to keep those places super clean, super
Hmm.
high quality, super nice. That's where, for the people who are able to get into that racket, that's where maybe not generational wealth, but certainly like wealth is going to be built, right? That's a baluster of the middle class. And I think some of these chainlets, as New York Magazine called them a couple of weeks ago, is based around that idea. It's just like, okay, this is, I'm never going to be Mark Zuckerberg, but maybe I can be, the owner of 3 different, black seed bagel places and, make a nice living for myself.
I mean, that's fair. That also is like, it crashes into that conversation that sort of like, I feel like every few months sort of like rises and falls of like, again, I'm millennial, I want to have a dog rescue, that sort of thing. But like the other side of that is like the great like boomers like are going to be selling off their businesses very soon. And like that is like a really great way to like get in something that you could flip or invest in or become or make something without building from the ground up. And I think it goes hand in hand with like, oh, I want to become a plumber, take up a trade, because that's a safer bet. Like instead of dreaming for like, I'm going to do the AI startup and make billions, like why not just buy a Chick-fil-A and like you can probably have a bit more of a stable trajectory. But like that's not as sexy as, well,
Mhm.
I made Claude with a beard. Like, like that's not the same.
Yeah, but yeah, I do think it's similar to the trade or just like blue collar jobs becoming
Yeah.
more attractive because
Yeah.
of uncertainty around what's going to happen in terms of.
Yeah. If anybody listening has a good HVAC guy in New York City, by the way, please,
Give us a
bang my
call.
line, as they say. Yeah, exactly. Well, okay. So speaking of this attitude around tech CEOs, though, where does that portend? What does that portend, rather?
To me, the most interesting angle, I mean, I don't think it's surprising at all, right? Like we all knew this.
Absolutely.
We've been talking
Yeah,
about this.
and this is a Futurism article that says that the headline is "Young people hate AI CEOs so passionately that it's almost hard to believe."
Yeah,
I don't think it's hard to believe at all, but
no, I don't think it's hard to believe at all. I wrote about it in like March or April about like the whole AI brand perception problem and how the most interesting aspect of it is the fact that young people are the most disapproving or like least like most skeptical, most worried, and it makes sense, right? I do think zooming out, it is really interesting because young people have always been more excited about new technology in the
Right.
past. I don't know about always, but in the past like 30 years or so at least. Like I feel like, young people were the ones on social media first. They were the ones
Hmm.
on MySpace. They're the ones blogging. They're the ones who wanted the iPhone, the iPod, like everyone. And like it was usually older generations that were like skeptical
Right.
or um like why are you wasting your time on the internet or whatever, like it's dangerous, like why are you in this chat room with like whatever. So like there was more skepticism and fear. I'm talking about my childhood. I was my dad was working, my dad has worked in IT, and so I was not allowed to go on MySpace. I was never allowed to have an MySpace. um but I was forced to do Mavis Beacon typing tutor.
Oh,
So
yes.
I had like a very strange. And we didn't have like I was like my first of my friends to not have dial up. But anyway, but I was not allowed to go on MySpace. There was
Damn.
a lot of like, that's dangerous. Like you
Hmm.
can't be
Hmm.
posting pictures online or whatever. It was coming from like a more older generation, I thought, and the youth was very excited and optimistic and
Right.
positive about technology. And the fact that that has changed, where there's like a flip and it's actually the younger generations are the more worried, the more interested in analog, the more interested in like nostalgia for like retro technology or rejecting AI or whatever, or like using it only because they feel like they have to get a job or whatever, but not because they want to or there's any excitement or desire around it. I think that flip is really fascinating, and I don't know what it means, but it
Hmm.
means like in terms of like how do you propel new technology when the people who are the new generation are against it Yeah.
Hello, everyone. This is editor and producer Campbell. Just clarifying that the last 15 minutes of Ben's footage didn't record properly, so we unfortunately can't use it, which is the reason for such a hard cutoff at the end of this episode. But if you'd like to check out Anu, she goes by What's Anu on Instagram and Substack. Kyle is at The Trend Report on Substack, and Ben is at Sick. And there is also a hip replacement Substack, which you guys should keep an eye on. There's going to be some cool events and announcements coming there soon. So yeah, thank you guys for watching/listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe.